So just to confirm then for consumers, it's a 9.4% increase which kicks in on April the 1st, and that's only for this financial year, is it not?
That's correct, Devon. It is 9.4 that kicks in on the 1st of April this year. This already tells you that this year is going to be a very, very difficult year for consumers, because obviously this means that they will have to fork more for their electricity consumption. This also has implications for energy intensive users like your mines, your factories, and so forth. You remember that last year we had that long drawn out load shedding process where we didn't have enough electricity, and there was also issues with regarding to the cost of electricity itself. So NERSA today decided that it's only 9.4 as opposed to 16.8% that Eskom is going to get. But there are a lot of numbers that NERSA spoke about today, and I'm no expert in those numbers, but I have asked the NERSA regulator member, Mr. Tembani Pukula, to speak to us and try to help us understand what this 9.4 translates to consumers, and also what going forward, what is the future for Eskom and tariff applications. Mr. Pukula, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
9.4, how much does this translate to in monetary terms for consumers in more electricity consumption or electricity costs?
The 9.4% increase means that Eskom will get an increase in the revenue of about 11.2 billion rand. So the average electricity price moves from 79 cents per kilowatt hour to about 86 cents per kilowatt hour.
There were a whole lot of processes with regards to getting stakeholders involved in how you are granting Eskom this. How many submissions did you get from outside, and how were those considered in coming with this final decision?
We got more than 82 submissions from different organizations. For instance, in Outer, as it was asked, there were more than 15,000 people who had signed their petition, or 8,000 people had signed their petition. So we got those numbers. In making our decision, we have to find this fair and delicate balance between the requirements of the utility or the applicant, the requirements of stakeholders, as well as the requirements of customers. And we have considered all of that, and we have made a decision that we think finds the balance between affordability and sustainability.
I was saying to my audience just now that there are a whole lot of numbers that you put here that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Eskom asked for a 2013 clawback, however, it's been granted in 2016. Please help me understand that.
Eskom applied late for this, but in all honesty, Eskom last year in June they applied, but their application was not in line with the methodology, so we asked them to reapply. But these were monies that they didn't get in 2013-14, but their application is approved in 2015-16, and therefore it will be implemented in 2015-16.
There's also a lot of questions asked about the affordability for customers, and that the cost of electricity generally in South Africa is becoming high. We also have interest rates going up. Generally, the cost of living is very expensive. Would you say that that was considered by the regulator in making its decision or its determination of this 9.4?
Yes, it was considered. The application was for a 16.8% increase, and we have moderated it down to the 9.4, having considered their ability to run the business and service whatever debts they have, and also operate the business, as well as the affordability from the customer side. So in essence, from our determination of 8%, this increase is only of 1.4%. And you have to take into consideration that the year before the increase was 12.69, so this is a reduction in the increases.
I see. In one of the decisions that you've made, you've asked that Eskom submit a new MYPD application within 3 months. What is this for? Help us understand that.
In this decision we've made on the regulated clearing account, one of the reasons or the main contributors has been the fact that they have used, they've used their open cycle gas turbines more than they had anticipated to use. And one of the main reasons is the fact that the new units of Medupi and Kusile that were supposed to come in did not come in. The other part is they have sold less than what they wanted to sell because of the downturn in the economic growth. versus their own estimates. So we're saying that maybe their estimates and focus were optimistic. So let's now that we know that there's an economic downturn and many other things that have happened, let's now relook and submit the application with more realistic estimates and more in-line assumptions.
Mr. Pukula, thank you very much for your time. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Thank you very much. Devin, as you've said, one thing that stood out for me is that you have more than 8,000 submissions that were made in saying, please do not grant Eskom this tariff increase. It's going to hurt our businesses. It's going to hurt consumers. However, Mr. Pukula says they were very mindful of balancing between what consumers need and what Eskom needs, because we must remember they also need to generate electricity, and they need to do that in a cost-effective way. But later in our bulletins, we will find out what Eskom has to say about that, and we'll also find out what industry players have to say about what NERSA had to do, or rather had to say today.
All right, Liabo Setho, thanks indeed. She's at the NERSA briefing there. An application granted for a 9.4% increase in tariff hikes, and that takes place or kicks in from April the 1st.